been married for quite a while. Got a bunch of kids doing faith in style. They'll tell you that you're awesome and you're not alone. So let's start the show. Who knew Catholics could be so much fun? Greg and Jennifer and how faith is done. Screwing up and trying and forgiving. Adventures in imperfect living. Adventures in imperfect living.
I really pushed it on that one. Well, last week I did that and kind of pushed the drop in the beat, and so I thought I'd see how far I could push it this week. 1 week I'm just not going to do anything at all. Welcome to the program. My name is Greg Willits from RosaryArmy.com.
And I am Jennifer Willits, his wife.
Very glad to have you here. It is a very Lenty show. We're not at Lent yet for 2023, but we are getting close, and so we thought we would take this opportunity to talk a little bit about what we're going to do for Lent.
Well, but if you follow the traditional liturgical calendar, you are well in the pre-Lent season. So we've already had Septuagesima.
Okay, so if
that
you go
already
with
happened.
the old traditional calendar, you could say that. But
which
I mean,
is super fun and cool.
Most of the people that are listening have no idea what you're talking about.
They're like, Septua what?
See, now I wish I had my missal. We're going to do this again. We did this last week. We need the missal that has a good explanation of can you
Is
explain?
it in your closet?
It is in the closet if you want to go get it. And,
I can get it. I already know the explanation.
We need to start. Do you know all the different numbers?
Yes.
The sep and the and the sext and the.
Yes.
Okay,
I do.
go for it.
Septuagesima is the fancy, cool word for 70th, meaning 70 days to Easter. And then, so it's celebrated on the Sundays, the 3 previous Sundays before Ash Wednesday. Now, it isn't meant to be scientifically accurate. It's not like there's 10 days between Sunday to Sunday, but it just represents increments of 10. So the third Sunday from Ash Wednesday, okay, the furthest one out, which we already had, is Septuagesima, Sept, S-E-P-T, stands for 70. So then the following Sunday, well, the one coming up, will put us 60 days from Easter, and that has its own fancy word, Sextagesima.
And now these obviously, because there's 7 days in the week, they're not truly,
right.
but
it's a representation.
It's a representation of it, exactly.
And then the final Sunday before Ash Wednesday is Quinquagesima or something along, but it has a Q-U-I-N, meaning 50. And then once we complete those 3 Sundays before Ash Wednesday, we will then be officially in Lent. But right now, we are already feeling a very pre-Lent sort of vibe. I'm already thinking about Lent and what I'm going to do for Lent, and it's like very easy to just sort of slip into, well, why not just kind of start the sacrifice now? That's how it is for me. What about you?
Well, no, I don't want to.
No, I'm going to go all the way to like Fat Tuesday, binging on all these foods.
Well, it's not a matter of binging, but it's what it is. It's kind of interesting. So I feel like last year's Lent lasted well into Easter and past Easter in terms of I didn't really go back for a while to my old way of life pre-Lent. So last year, I gave up a few things. For example, I gave up not using my or any electronic device like the iPad or the iPhone or whatever in the bedroom, and I pretty much said while laying in bed. You know, I like to lay on. Even when I'm not in bed, I like to lay on the bed. It's just the most comfortable place in the house for me to lay down and read stuff. I like to read books there. So I'm probably going to do that same thing again because I feel like I went almost 6 months, it felt like, where I really kind of liked what I ended up doing. I started to enjoy that sacrifice, and then I slowly started slipping into going back and doing it.
And now it's back.
And now it's back, and you're nodding in affirmation again. And I'll tell you, there are some motivations and reasons why I give this one up, just because I'm not saying that there's anyone in the house in particular that might look at me funny when I'm like laying on the bed, but I'm just saying that there's someone who comes in and out of the bedroom a lot, particularly when I stop moving and I lay down, and I know I do it a lot more than you do. You can't stop. When you get out of bed in the morning, you don't go near that bed again until it's time to go to bed at night.
Because to me, the bed is primarily for sleep and other marital things, okay? But usually
Oh, wait. Let's talk about that.
at night, like after the sun goes down.
You're not 6'5" or 6'4", however tall I am now.
Hey, I don't
And-
blame you. I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just telling you, this is my Jennifer Willits association with the bed. And
Anywhere
so-
else I sit in the house, on even our most comfortable locations, our sofa in the living room, I tend to sit with my back completely curved, and it just after about 15 minutes, I'm just uncomfortable,
Right.
and I feel like I'm doing damage to myself, so I go lay down on the bed again.
Right. So I understand that you have a unique usage of the bed that's very different from me, and I ain't got no problem.
So-
However, let me just say,
Okay.
this is an unusual circumstance, and I'm sure there are many people, married people, who may have this same dynamic in their bedroom that we do now. But we made a decision to put our treadmill in our bedroom.
Oh yeah.
And at first I was like, well, I get it. It makes sense. We don't have another room where the treadmill makes sense. And we really didn't want it exposed to the world whenever we have guests come over. So we thought, well, we'll just keep it in our room. It's just for Greg and me anyway. It makes sense and it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Really. I don't mind seeing this big giant black thing in the corner of our bedroom because it serves a purpose. And I'm grateful. I'm super, super grateful that we have this thing. Truly I am. But it's taken me a long time to consider using it because the bedroom is for rest, relaxation, prayer. It's got those kind of functionalities to it. So it doesn't make sense to my brain to want to work hard in the bedroom on a treadmill. So there's a war in my head. But I thought, you know what? I got to do it. I got to work out. I feel my body getting weaker and weaker, like by the day, new aches and pains. I'm like, I got to stop this. And well, there's a treadmill. I'm just going to have to get on there. I was going to have to do it. I don't care. Just got to get on there. And so I'm on there. And I have overcome all my obstacles. And I'm now huffing and puffing. And I'm really trying to go deep, get into that mindset of you versus you. You're out there. You're going to work hard. You're sweating. And all of a sudden, here comes Greg laying down in the bed. And then the cat snuggling with Greg.
On the bed.
On the bed.
Top of the bed.
And so I'm like, try to work out, and then Lily will come in there sometimes, and she'll just curl up on the bed and just watch me work out. I'm like, y'all are not helping me at all. Y'all are just showing me rest and relaxation, like I'm the odd man out.
Literally,
I'm trying to work out.
Last night, I think, were you on the treadmill when I laid down, or did you come in and I was already laid down?
No, I was on the treadmill first. I had established what was happening in this room. It was now a gym.
So now she's on the treadmill. I come in, I lay down, and then almost immediately Molly, our younger cat, came and laid on top of me. And then Lily came in, and she's on the bed. And then shortly thereafter, it came in, and Marty jumped on the bed. So it was literally both cats. And then it was me, and I'm surprised Tommy didn't come in and hang out at some point. But okay, so going back to, I'll probably do that again, where I'm going to give up the iPad and the phone laying on or in the bed because it was good. And I had a long list. There were a lot of things I did last year. I was very ambitious last year. And my ambitiousness is not quite there this year, but I'm thinking about it. And I am thinking about it in terms of food. I know that you have been talking about that a lot lately. And you and Catherine have been talking about the idea of the need to give up some food or something. And, for many years, there was this trepidation of, can you give up, can you diet and have it be both spiritual and physical at the same time? Can it only have one benefit? Can you do a certain level of fasting, and if it's going to be helping you to lose weight, does that help? And I would say in my 30s, I was totally for that, the idea of keeping those two separate. But now you just talk about the aches and pains. Now exercise has a different dynamic to it. It's now more necessary to take care of myself. Not I'm never going to have, a killer body or whatever, but those aches and pains. And do I want to be there for grandchildren? Do I want to be there for our kids when they get older? Do I not want to constantly be in the position where I feel like my back hurts, I got to lay down on the bed? And so part of me is a little torn in terms of, and number one is I don't want to diet. I don't want to exercise. Those are two things I don't want to do. So I feel like there could be a sacrificial component. And the reason why I said it doesn't count in the 30s as much is because then it was more of a, not vanity, but there was something about wanting to get in, great shape and that kind of thing. And now I've given up. So
Well, but I think
there's that.
You raise an excellent point in that at the end of the day, you just don't want to do a particular thing. And so in some ways, exercising and eating healthy is a sacrifice, but what are you sacrificing? You're sacrificing the creature comfort. You're sacrificing another good, which was to do nothing.
You're sacrificing time that you would rather be doing with
It's
other
still
activities.
time, yeah.
You're sacrificing some of the meals. And so even these things, I believe, we can turn them into things where we're offering up to God, where we are embracing the various crosses that we have. And I'm not trying to justify certain behaviors like, well, I'm going to give up not drinking. I'm going to be drinking. It doesn't work that way. There really needs to be that spiritual component that's going to help you to basically put yourself on the cross with Christ. And that's part of what we're trying to do right now. They say that the two wings of prayer are fasting and almsgiving, but it's throughout our Lenten season that we should be focusing on all three of those things: prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. So what do we either give up or add to make our prayers be more beneficial? What do we give up or add to make our sacrifices more beneficial? And last year, one of the goals that I had was I was going to go through the closets and I was going to find stuff to either sell and then give away whatever I made off of that. And eBay just ended up being a whole new penance that I didn't like. So I didn't sell as much. I ended up just donating a lot of things to one of the local, Goodwill or
No Longer Bound.
Yeah, near us we have something called No Longer Bound, which is a for prisoners that are transitioning back into the outer world. And so doing things like that. And I was going back and looking at my list from last year, and I could revisit it. I have it in my notebook, but trying to find something that hits those components. What am I going to do to improve my prayer or my spirituality? And that's not necessarily giving up. That's more in adding to, right? What am I going to add to what I already do? So I'm already praying a rosary. I'm already doing the Liturgy of the Hours. Last year I said add 1 hour of adoration a week. That wasn't specific enough. I wasn't successful in that. I should have said on Wednesdays at 2, I'm going to go up there, or on,
That's good.
Thursday night at 11 o'clock, I'm going to go to adoration, something like that, so that there's a very, very specific and measurable thing that I could say I did. I would love to be able to say that I'm going to do an hour a day of a holy hour at the church, but I don't think that's realistic because it's not that close for us to do that. But something very specific in terms of prayer. Also trying to find a book or something along those lines that you can realistically get through. I have a bad habit of picking books that are too long that I can't get throughout the entire Lent, even if it's my best intention with all the other things. So, but there are books that I tend to gravitate back to, and I recommend every year to people. For example, if you like fiction, Louis de Wohl's book about St. Longinus, it's called The Spear. It's a really great Lenten book to read to sort of help you see what was happening in Jerusalem in the time of Jesus leading up to his crucifixion. Another book that I highly recommend is Fulton Sheen's Life of Christ. And along those lines, some of the books I've been thinking about lately have been possibly getting one of Benedict XVI's books on Jesus. He wrote several volumes on that, as well as taking the time to go through one of the Bible studies that we have. Particularly, I recently bought John's Gospel just because of guests that we've had on the program. When Shane Kapler was on the show, we talked about John's Gospel and how John's Gospel has a different charism to it because Mary came and lived in his house after Jesus died and was resurrected. And so finding something like that is going to become your thing during Lent. Now, you're actually going to revisit something from last year.
Yeah, last year, if you remember, dear listener, we talked about a wonderful new Lenten book called Restore that was written by Sister Miriam James Headland, which we actually had as a guest on our show. That was such a great interview. And I remember it being kind of an emotional conversation with her because she zeroed in right into our souls, it seemed. And it was very powerful because she is a student, if you will, of Dr. Bob Schutz, who we've also had on the program. And that ability to talk about emotional wounds and the need to be healed from them was a huge theme of her Lenten book last year. And so the book, if you have had it or you're thinking about getting it, the way that it's sort of structured is you have a very short reflection and then a writing prompt and a question to answer. So there's a journaling aspect, and you just do that throughout all of Lent for all the 40 days. And so it is a consumable book. Obviously, if you use it, then it's kind of like, well, I'm done and I've written all in it, so how could I possibly use it again? So this year I thought it might be interesting to just do it again. So I'm going to order a fresh book, a fresh copy, and just see what comes up. Because what was so surprising and refreshing about this particular journaling experience is it only can pull from what comes to the heart at the time that you were writing. And so I was in a different season of life last year, very different from where I am today. And so I'm actually pretty curious to see, well, what would come up? What areas, what wounds do I still need healing in that now I can continue my journey of healing? Because healing oftentimes when you're dealing, I believe, with emotional wounds take a long time. And sometimes the healing isn't achieved in a week. Sometimes it's achieved over the span of years. And there were some very particular misperceptions and hurt feelings that I had to reconcile last Lent. And so now I kind of want to work on some other things that maybe I couldn't address fully last season. So that's
What were they?
Well, which one?
Like what you had to struggle with last year. Do you remember?
Yeah, the really big thing that was hard for me last year was just sort of having a healthy relationship with my mother. I realized I saw her as this very judgmental and unforgiving woman figure in my life. And
this is before her dementia came into play.
Yeah. And because I had held that view of my mother, it obviously complicated my relationship with her. Even when she did, unfortunately, succumb to dementia, it was following my relationship even in there. And it was really sort of an obstacle to me to have a good and healthy relationship with my mom. And so I knew it was something that just needed to be resolved. This book really was so gentle. And I felt like my hand was just being held throughout this process of just identifying the problem and learning how to give it over to Christ to be healed. But I had to want it. That was a really big thing. And I had to see that it was something that could be healed, that all I had to do is change the way that I saw her. And in that moment, it was like God was telling me, you have nothing to be afraid of. Let me show you your mom. Come with me out into this dark and scary place, and I want to show you your mom. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm just going to go. I'm going to follow you, Lord. And so all this was through the journal, like last Lent. It was such a powerful Lent. And I was so grateful to have that in my life because I was able to have real reconciliation that I could experience with my mother. Now, interestingly enough, like a great reconciliation experience between you and another person is if the other person could participate in the reconciliation. In this case, it wasn't possible. In this case, I had to do my share of the reconciliation on my part, knowing that my mom was not in a position where she could. So I had to accept that reality that it was kind of like a half reconciliation, but also full. It was all that I needed it to be so that I could be free of that false perception that was just harming a relationship between a mother and daughter. So I don't know what will come up this year. If I do this book again, I don't know what's there, but the writing prompts are so spot on.
Well,
They're
how
to go under
timely,
the
how
hood.
good that you did that last year.
I know.
I mean, considering that a few months later your mom died,
Yes.
that you were able to find some of that.
What a mercy it was to me. really.
Interestingly, I don't really remember a lot of what I wrote about. I remember feeling very positive, very thankful that I was going through it. So much of just in the last year in general, I've started to. It's been nice to be able to let things go, some of the painful things, and so that book was a part of that. So you're going to go through that book again, hoping to find
Maybe something else will be revealed because I did not know that problematic relationship with my mother. I didn't really see it as a problem, which was interesting. Like I just accepted it for how things were. This is just how I see my mom. And so I didn't know it was something that needed to be healed until I realized, I need to be healed of this. And so because I was surprised by it, I wonder what other surprises lay in store for me.
So that could be put in that category of adding something, right? You're adding a prayerful type of study of sorts, right? So that would go in prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. What about the type of giving of yourself that might fall under the almsgiving side of things? Have you had ideas along those lines? Because that's the area that I think that sometimes I struggle with, because we're already a unit, that we are together. You handle all the finances, and so I can't always have access to, let's write a check and give a donation or something. But I feel like sometimes the best giving that we can give of ourselves is of ourselves, and that is oftentimes very difficult for me to find those moments where what I'm giving is actually of my time to someone. And that's I'm very selfish in those regards of like just trying to protect that bubble and trying to protect that recuperation space that I have in my time.
Well, and that might be something that this book could help reveal to me, because last year I would have said, well, I'll just go visit my mom. That was one of my holy hours that I would make, would be to visit the sick, visit her, be with her. And I don't have that option anymore because she died last December. And I have to really pray about that. I'm not sure what my replacement is. I don't know. I really have to think about
it could also be
how I want to give this year in that respect, extra giving.
It could be, volunteering to help do something at the church,
or at my school too. There's a lot of times there are opportunities, and so look for them. And a lot of times the opportunities are around you. I know there's a ministry to help feed the homeless in Atlanta that our school participates in, and so it might be kind of fun to really be hands-on and making a whole bunch of food and then just to give it to the poor.
And so another thing though, if you are to make a tithe, not just of your time, but an actual financial tithe, one of the things that you can look at, and this might be something you and I want to look at, particularly with making maybe an extra donation to Rosary Army or an extra donation to our church or an extra donation to some other nonprofit, is if we give up a particular type of food, if we save a certain amount of money, because we're not going out to eat or whatever it is we might choose, that money could and should be given away. That money that you're saving, make that be a sacrificial gift of some sort, because that's one that I think that for us it hurts to do that. We already tithe our 10% or whatever it is that we tithe, but to go beyond what we're typically giving, that's when it starts to hurt. And quite honestly, we get so used to our tithe that making that financial sacrificial gift is oftentimes really difficult. And this is a terrible transition and terrible sounding plug, but we didn't hit our fundraising goal for Rosary Army. And so if you are thinking about making a donation to a nonprofit and you want to help out a ministry, please consider Rosary Army. You can go to rosaryarmy.com/donate. I do plan on running sort of a minimal giving campaign for the Lenten season to try to raise that remaining $60,000 that we need, because we do have additional expenses and projects and things that we're trying to accomplish. And just today got a notice of what could potentially be coming our way, and I literally stopped and started saying my rosary just to ask for peace on that. But so that's almsgiving, right? So giving up something, the prayer, we talked about that, but what about giving up anything in particular? Are you going to do it? You and Catherine were talking about food of some sort. Have you nailed something down there?
Yeah, I think so. It's funny because Catherine and I are very blessed to work in the same school, and so in the teacher's lounge, many times Catherine will walk in when I'm having my lunch, and we'll have discussions, and it's pretty great that I get to have the opportunity to hang out with her and talk with her a couple times a week.
Share a bottle of wine over lunch?
No, but she was very adamant about her opinion on food should be what is given up, precisely because it's so difficult. And so, I don't disagree with that. In fact, I think that that's pretty spot on. At least in our household, we celebrate with food. We just love to do that in our families. And we don't go very many places. We're not the travelers and all that, but we like to at least have some access to fun things to eat. So it would be hard. There is something psychological about our connection to food. And anyway, it opens up wonderful opportunity to be selective there and to pare back on a few things that we feel that we're addicted to. And for me, I know I love sugar. I love sweets. I love baked goods. And those are like my little rewards that I think I deserve because it doesn't even have to be a reason.
You deserve them because you deserve them.
Because I'm alive, because I've shuffled through my mortal coil during my daily work. I don't know. It's just it's something that I know I should be able to give it up. And I am gonna probably go towards the sugary carbs, the artificial.
So you need to be more specific. And here's what I would say.
And I understand because if you're too vague, you're not going to do it right.
Right? Yeah, you're going to start slipping. I mean, if you just flat out say no desserts, no sweets, that's But if you say no sugar, then what? You're not going to eat rice then for 40 days, and you're not going to eat whatever turns into sugars, and and all those kinds of things.
It's specific in here.
What about if I make sushi? I put sugar into the seasoning that goes over the rice at the end of it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, see, but that's
sugar is in everything.
Sugar's in everything. So it's like. That's why you need to be more specific.
Yeah.
So
it's the sugar that I'm aware of.
So I just pulled out my. If
I don't know what's in there, how can I give it up?
This almost looks like a prop. If you're watching the YouTube video of this, I had the list from last year. I said declutter and clean. So I said empty spaces, sell stuff not needed or used, or give give alms for what we earn. Clean drawers, closets, garage. I did do the garage. I did a really good garage cleaning last year, and it's supposed to be more.
Good job.
You're supposed to be more enthusiastic on that cleaning since
it's great.
That always falls on one particular person in the house to clean that garage. And then giving stuff away. I feel like we gave a lot of stuff away last year. I gave up video games across the board. I deleted StarCraft 2 off the computer, which it's currently deleted on my computer right now. And I deleted all but one Apple Arcade game that I have on my iPad right now. But I think I'll do that too. That one's really hard for me because I like that's I don't know what to do with myself or nothing's going on. I just play a quick game. It's just it's mindless. And what's the difficulty there is it makes it so that what I'm giving up there is the game, but really it's a spiritual practice in that it's forcing me to think of other ways that God might be wanting me to put my time to use, and forcing me to work a little bit harder than I normally do to come up with those things. No social media. So last year I signed up for something called freedom.to. So if you go to gregandjennifer.com/freedom, you could check this out. And it was great for a good long while, but then it stopped being as great on my computer as it was on the other devices because I kept running into where I needed to post something for Rosary Army on social media or something like that in the middle of the day. And I set it so that I could access social media stuff after 5 p.m. or something like that. And I probably just need to, there's a few other services. I might switch to another one because there's one service that I was looking at that was a combination of what Freedom does as well as a Pomodoro time tracking type thing so that you can, I like the idea of Pomodoros of like really concentrated bursts of work. So, but doing something like that so that you're not wasting time. I wrote down check news only once a day. I didn't put a check mark on that at the end of Lent, so I don't think I was very successful. No meat Wednesdays and Fridays, right? So give up meat on an extra day so that you feel that sacrifice a little bit more when no one else may be doing that. And then I'll say this, and this is one of the things that we had written down, and we've actually had this for a topic. Prepare yourself when you give up meat during this Lent. Don't go back to eating meat on Fridays after Lent. And this is a whole other Catholic subject that we could talk about, but we are supposed to give up meat on all Fridays. And it started to become, well, if you do eat meat on Fridays, then make some other sort of penitential action. Well, how often do you do that? Do you do that at all? And we kept trying to do that where we're like, well, we'll eat meat, but we'll make some other sacrifice. How long have we been talking right now just trying to figure out what we're going to do for Lent? We could never figure out a sacrifice. The next thing you know, let's have a drink and some ice cream while we're figuring out what else we're going to give up so that we could eat this meat on this pizza today. We've just gone across the board and we've done this for a while. We don't eat meat on Fridays. And it's just something that we do. And it doesn't hurt all that much. It makes us do a little bit of extra work when trying to figure out what we're going to eat for dinner on Friday nights. But it's something that makes us stop and pause. And so that's actually one thing. I don't worry about that with Lent at all. And so that's why I think it's important to maybe consider, if you do give up meat on Friday, maybe that's something you could do, is give up meat one other day. We choose Wednesdays. I wrote down minimum 1 hour in front of the Blessed Sacrament a week. That one really hits me, just because I kind of struggle a little bit at the Adoration Chapel near us, because every time I seem to go is always when it's either noisiest or the most distractions or whatever. But that's my excuse for not going, right? And that's a terrible excuse. And so maybe I need to go in there and be praying for whoever it is that's distracting me in there. Again, Life of Christ by Fulton Sheen, that's always on my list. Continuing Liturgy of the Hours. No iPad or phone on the bed. Work on the Secrets of the Rosary book. That I've been, or the 15. I'm sorry, the 15 promises of the Rosary book, which I've been promising Rosary Army people for 3 years now, and I still haven't finished it.
So
but
in 15 years, you'll get it done.
I mean, that makes me think. So again, if I were to say I'm going to work on something, right, then it becomes I'm adding something. So if I say that I want to do something good. Right. So if we want to record something, if we want to have a project done by the end of Lent, how much time do you devote per day on that, and make that be something that you actually are committed to? And I think you're going to go a long way if you're able to do those kinds of things. So
maybe we can do our Latin Rosary.
Well, I totally, that's going to be done by the end of February in my mind. That's my goal on that.
So we got to get started.
I didn't even show you my February goal list for everything that we're trying to get done. So
wait, are you going to do anything with food?
I don't know yet. Other than giving up meat on Wednesdays.
Okay, so you're going to do that.
I think so.
I kind of forgot all about that one.
But then I get torn, because it's like if I do some level of diet or exercise or whatever, and quite honestly, it would be a Lenten-y thing for me to do that. What am I going to do for the replenishment? I don't want to eat a bunch of carbs. I need protein, and I guess I'll just be drinking a shake or something on those days. So. I don't know.
You could.
I still have time. When you're watching this, your time might be running out, but I still have another good week or so before I could figure out what I'm going to be doing. So good conversation. Let us know. Leave a comment, whether it be on the YouTube channel, or send us feedback at feedback@gregandjennifer.com. Speaking of feedback, let me say this. Number one, we have really been enjoying making these podcasts available both as a video as well as audio. So if you're watching this right now, thank you for watching it on YouTube. Make sure that you are clicking subscribe and like and the notifications. And I hate being one of those people that's saying to do all those things, but it makes a big difference. And leaving your comments, and I've been trying to respond to comments as we go along. So thank you for being a part of this and really helping us to feel like you are out there and you are watching and you're listening. It's been great. I had an idea though in regards to feedback. And I don't know if anyone's going to be brave enough to actually do this, but I loved this idea, and here it is that in the past we've encouraged people that if you want to send us feedback, email feedback is fine, but it just gets boring when it's just us reading it. We love to hear your voices, and so for many years we've told them to pick up your phone, go to your voice memo program, record it, hit the button to share it, put in our email address, feedback@gregandjennifer.com, and send it to us. We'll play it on the air. Now that we're doing the video, we can do a twofer here. If you just want to pull out your phone and record a video of you talking and asking your question, we'll include your face on the video and your voice on the podcast. I think it would be super cool, and I'm excited to throw that challenge out to all of you.
Who will be the first?
Who's going to be the first person to send in video feedback for the show? And it doesn't have to be feedback. We say feedback. If you have a question that you want us to answer, record yourself asking that question and then send it to us. And I tell you what, we talked about video recently. Do it this way, and we'll put you on the full screen. If you do it this way, I'll try to squeeze you in between me and Jennifer.
Okay, well, that's not going to help the people listening. They don't know this or this.
If you do it horizontally, we'll fill up the screen with your pretty face. If you do it vertically, then we'll stick in between us somehow, or I don't know how it'll work. So I think that would be super fun. We'd love to see your faces as well as hear your voices. So record those videos, and if they're too big to send via email, upload it to Dropbox or share it out however you can. can, and I'll grab it from there, and we'll share it on an upcoming show. I'd love to have an episode where we're just answering your questions about the faith or about issues with your family and the Rosary or whatever it might be, the kinds of things that we talk about on Adventures in Imperfect Living. Don't ask me how to change a carburetor in your son's moped, because people don't have mopeds. That's exactly it. I don't know how to do that. Ask us things that you know that we probably know the answers to. So thank you for that. And thank you again for those of you who have been watching and leaving those comments and sharing it and that kind of thing. I've really enjoyed that.
Well, one thing I wanted to share, our daughter got older. So we have an older teen now. She's 14 years old. Longtime listeners might actually remember hearing her being born. Like when you actually, did you ever feature that audio on this podcast, or did it only air on the Catholics Next Door on Sirius XM when we were exclusively broadcasting for them?
Neither. It was on the radio. We played that audio over the air on the radio, and then it was included in the podcast version of the radio show. So
gotcha.
People, you can go back and try to find that from 2009 when Lily was born, that we actually played the genuine audio from when she was when Jennifer was in labor, and played that on the air for an international audience
14 years ago. So
14.
She had a great little birthday, very low key. I guess the big thing that she did that was, trying to, girls want to be more like women, like that's just what got their eye on. And so she's always been fascinated by women who get their nails done. And so she's been eyeing that for a long time. And so
I don't get this at all.
She wanted really pretty nails with a little design on that ring fingernail. That's like the trend right now, or I guess it's been a trend for like a decade. I've never done it, but I've seen it. And
like little dots of something?
Well, like the ring fingernail will get a very distinct flare design, like floral, just some kind of very different, could be a different color altogether, but you do something different on just the ring fingernail. And it did. I'm telling you, this started like a decade ago. It's just bizarre. And some people do something really pretty and tasteful. And so she just wanted something. And I thought, well, okay, this would be a gift. I'll take her to the salon. I have never, all my life, I've never had this done to my nails. I've never had a set of nails like glued onto mine and then where they shape it and all this. It's
I didn't think that was a thing anymore. I thought that was totally like a 1980s thing, but that's...
I didn't know. I knew nothing. I didn't know the lingo. They were saying things that were over my head, like SNS. I don't even know what that is, but it's a thing. It's like gel color powder. It's powder now. Like you dip your finger in powder and then they put some, it's just crazy. Like the technology has advanced well beyond what I thought. You just went in there with a brush and painted a color and call it a day. Oh no. This thing was like almost an hour in the chair where this really sweet gal was just working on her nails and getting it exactly the right length, exactly the right shape. And she just was so happy. She was like just smiling and showing off her nails and looking at her nails. It was just the cutest thing. And they really did look really cute. It's like she's got like woman hands. They're like, she's a girl. She's 14-year-old, but with little woman hands. It is just adorable. But she was so happy. And she's just like constantly wanting to move her hair out of her face with her nails in view.
How long do these things last?
This is an interesting question. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I asked the stylist or who was applying the nails. He says, oh, like 2 weeks, you'll be back. And I'm like, 2 weeks? I better get more out of my money than that. And but I don't see how they're just gonna have to grow away, or you cut them off. I have no idea what's gonna happen. So we're just kind of watching to see what's going to happen with it.
I'm no longer
sharing. If you know what's going to happen, will you please email me and tell me what I should do here? Because do we just let them grow infinitely? I mean, at some point we're going to have to cut them. I don't know if we can cut them ourselves, or do I have to go back there? I have no idea.
I'm no longer
sharing. I have no idea what I'm doing.
I'm no longer sharing bowls of popcorn with her.
Why?
Because one of those things is going to fall off in the popcorn bowl, and then I'm going to take a big honking handful of popcorn. I'm going to be crunching on.
There's so much glue. There's no way that thing's going to fall off her
fingernails.
finger.
I don't even know what to.
She just was beaming. Our daughter Lily, I'm just so proud of her. She's just beautiful and sweet, and it's just been an absolute joy to have the experience of having a daughter. I cannot even tell you. It's just so awesome being a mother of a daughter.
She definitely
I just love it.
doesn't stink like her brothers did.
No. She's like a rose. She's like a lily flower.
We have
So
not
pretty.
had that 13, 14-year-old funk smell in the
Not like the
bedroom
boys.
like we did with the boys, like we still maybe have with a boy who's about to turn 19 that still lives at home.
And so another thing that's really cool about this age, if you have a teen daughter, is every now and then we'll just get in this kick where we just want to watch old movies. And so we're in that kick right now. So we're on the hunt for good, clean, old movies with maybe just a touch of romance. So if you have any suggestions for Lily and me, please send it to feedback@gregandjennifer.com. We are definitely wanting some help in this area. And on a fluke, we decided to watch an old Audrey Hepburn movie. And so I didn't know anything. I just picked it at random. I had never seen this movie. The title was vaguely familiar to me, but I went with Roman Holiday, starring Audrey Hepburn and Gregory Peck. We just fell in love with this movie. It was so great. Had you ever seen this before?
No, never seen it. I like Gregory Peck. I mean, he's always interesting to watch.
It was a funny movie.
It was weird seeing like a slightly younger Atticus Finch in action. Okay. And, there's several other things. Like he was in a great Catholic movie called The Scarlet and the Black. If you've never seen that, love that movie. The only bad thing about that movie is the music. It's terrible 1980s synthesizer music, but it's a great Catholic movie. It's a true story. But I just always enjoy watching them. I don't think I've ever seen an Audrey Hepburn movie. And so this was the first time. Super cute woman. I mean, just lovely.
Yes.
Just absolutely lovely.
I'd never seen her either. This is my first time. Now, growing up in the 70s, I was aware of her at some point, maybe around the 80s, that she was this iconic movie star from a previous generation. But the timing of my life and hers just did not sync up. So now I'm a good audience for those films. And so we're trying to go back and grab some of these old classics.
But then we wanted to watch another Audrey Hepburn movie and went and tried to watch Breakfast at Tiffany's and made it about 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And don't get that one at all. That was a completely different thing. And
what is she doing? Why is she acting this way? Like, what movie is this?
It was just everything was weird about it too. I mean, there were things in this movie that would totally not be allowed. Mickey Rooney's role in that was one of the most offensive things I've seen, and I don't know how. I'm like, this can't be real. This can't be real. It was like a Saturday Night Live parody of something that was racist, but this was really just it was nuts. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, so we've been trying to find some older movies to watch. That it's also kind of surprising how even when we watch some older movies, we're like, I didn't think that they let this kind of stuff get away with back then. So, one last thing that I'll throw out here. That they're going to let Molly out. Molly's starting to meow. She's stuck in the room here with us. Just recently, we've talked on the program about EMDR therapy. That was the title of the podcast a few weeks back. Talking about my own experiences with EMDR and just therapy in general and getting help with mental health issues. And part of the reason why we talked about it again a few weeks ago is because we've had several people reaching out to us recently and asking us for advice, asking for input, and just direction on certain things. And we should have known better. We should have known that if we talked about it, that we are going to get even more feedback, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a great thing.
It's good.
But I actually brought it up to my therapist, and I asked him for input on what can we recommend to you if you are looking for help. How do you find a good therapist, particularly a Catholic therapist? And the first thing he recommended to me, and all I did was write down the name of it. I don't have a website for you, but Google Catholic Psychotherapy Association. So again, specifically that, and on YouTube, I'm sure when I'm editing this, I will find the URL and put it up there. But Catholic Psychotherapy Association, Catholic Psychotherapy Association, and I asked him because particularly a lot of people have asked about EMDR. There's a lot of services. There are a lot of services right now where you can do therapy via Zoom or other secure channels. I think they use things that are very secure so that that you can, whatever you share is confidential and that kind of thing. Super important, right? Zoom records everything. So I would feel kind of kind of strange to know that that's going out into the ether, but there are other services where you can actually have calls with people, with licensed therapists. He said that if you are speaking to a therapist in a state that's different than where you live, they might couch it as life coaching or other thing, because there are some legalities in terms of what can actually be offered and be considered true psychotherapy. Also, in regards to EMDR therapy, while there are some therapists that will do EMDR therapy virtually, my therapist said he wouldn't do it. And he just immediately said he wouldn't offer it. He would not lead someone through EMDR virtually. And as someone who I probably have had at least 50 EMDR sessions at this point, I would guess, for the year and a half that I've been doing this. I also, I wouldn't want to go to therapy, to EMDR therapy virtually. I wouldn't want to have that experience where, I'm looking at the screen and whether it be a light bar or whatever, it's just weird. Now, I have watched some YouTube videos that just for, self-soothing type things will have a ball and certain harmonics going on that mimic a little bit of the EMDR experience. And that's actually something I just do when I find myself kind of ramped up with anxiety or stress, just to calm down whatever ruminating thoughts might be trying to take over my head. And that works and that's helpful, but it's not, I would not say that's EMDR therapy, truly. So that's a little bit to think about. Just so many people have reached out, and it really makes me think that there's a significant issue going on. And I'm glad that there are places or organizations like the Catholic Psychotherapy Association. There's some others out there. I can't speak for them. I don't know anything about them. I fully trust the guy I've been working with now for a year and a half. He recommended this organization, so it's worth looking for.
Is this a database where people can say where they live and then maybe find a list of
See, you always ask me these questions.
Psychotherapists in the area?
I literally told you as much as I know.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, it's a directory.
It literally is CatholicPsychotherapy.org is the website address. And they have, if you go to it, and they have some information about it. I
just go to the website, click around, look around.
And see if
hopefully
you can
you'll find what you need there.
Find something.
That's good.
So there's a directory there, but I don't really know how you actually get hooked up with a therapist through that. But I'm sure someone could figure that out and go from there.
Excellent.
All right. Well, that's all we got for this week. It's a shorter show. I do want to give a shout out to, we do have a couple of new Patreon supporters that I haven't said thank you to Chris and to DJ. And they're monthly supporters. And I want to encourage all of our current Patreon co-producers to go ahead and start transitioning over to Rosary Army. And Rosary Army needs your help. And some of the changes that we're going to be making going forward is that we want to be able to provide more content to more people. And with Patreon, I'm double posting a lot of, like every week I post to Patreon and I post to the YouTube, and I'm posting to our website. And it's just one extra place that, because we're trying to move everything over to Rosary Army, that special area, I'd rather have people supporting the ministry than supporting us personally. And it's kind of hard for me to say that, in case you can't tell by me squirming. We're taking a chance in doing that because obviously we need to support the family, but we work for Rosary Army. And so we're trusting that the resources will be there. So I bring that up because I don't want to encourage other people to go and sign up for Patreon right now. I don't know how to close it down without having a major disruption to our life. So, but if you go and you become a monthly donor to Rosary Army, feel free to cancel your Patreon subscription. And you look confused on that.
Oh, you know what you're doing.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay,
Never give anyone the indication that I know what I'm doing.
One more story to share.
Did I say their names? Chris and DJ, thank you very much.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
So thank you for doing that. We did have one fun sort of this, what's the word, spontaneous way that we spent our Saturday. That was Patreon was actually involved in this very spontaneous thing we did on Saturday that I think our listeners would actually enjoy to hear this story.
You didn't put it on the show notes.
No, I didn't, because
I totally was going to forget this.
Now.
So we talked just a few weeks ago. This is one of those gifts from God, honestly. The timing of how things worked out. So we talked about in the last week, I think it was maybe last week's show or the 2 weeks ago.
It was exactly the EMDR show that we released, episode 463 last week.
Talked about the fact that I've been praying Liturgy of the Hours for a year now, the morning and evening prayers in the Office of Readings. And I don't want to reiterate the whole story, but we mentioned the priest who sent me the full 4-volume set as a gift a little over a year ago. Well, providentially, he is transferring from Florida to another state. And he sent us a message last Saturday morning. He just happened to be listening to the podcast and just happened to hear us mention him. And he just happened to be packing up his house before he left. And he just happened to find a thank you card that I sent him to thank him for the Liturgy of the Hours. And he just happened to get through to us. I'm upstairs working, actually editing last week's show. And Jennifer texted me and said, "Did you see that email from Father Tom?" And so I jumped over and I looked at it. And he included his phone number, and I just kind of sat for a minute. And I went, and he said he was south of Atlanta. He just stopped, and he was south of Atlanta. And I looked on Google Maps, and I thought for a second, I'm like, this is so out of my comfort zone to do this kind of thing. But I went downstairs, and I asked Jennifer and Lily. I said, we've been talking about, there was a new Buc-ee's that have been opened up in North Georgia on one of the major highways that we're not close to at all. I said, it would take us 90 minutes to get there. And would you want to make a road trip? And I explained to them, I want to ask you this before I sent this idea to Father Tom. And they were up for it. We've been hearing about Buc-ee's, and we like barbecue.
And for those who don't know what Buc-ee's
it's a gas station.
It's just a gas station, okay? But it's more than that. It's like this giant retail shopping experience in the store.
It's ridiculous.
It's not just buying a Coke and a bag of chips to help you survive your road trip or whatever. It's like you can get all kinds of merchandise, including a very large menu of meat-based sandwiches that have a reputation for being really good.
Speaking of food, I just now remembered this. Where's the rest of my peanut brittle that we got?
Oh, it's in the pantry.
Oh, man.
It's just in the pantry.
We bought peanut brittle, but I only got a little bit because theirs is made with it's 70% high fructose corn syrup. So I just got a little bit.
I think most of them are made with high fructose corn syrup.
That makes
okay,
sense.
So that's what Buc-ee's is.
So that's what Buc-ee's is. They were all on board. I called Father then, since he provided the phone number. I just called him. And I said, "Hey, where are you south of Atlanta?" And he told me, and I'm looking up the exit number that he's near. And I said, "Okay, well, based on what I'm saying, I can't believe I was able to figure this out. It looks like you're 2 hours away from Buc-ee's." I said, "We're an hour and a half. Do you want to meet there for lunch?" He said, "Let's do it." The funny thing is after we agreed to do that, he goes, "I just got to tell you, when I sent you that message earlier, I was at Buc-ee's." He was at a different
Buc-ee's.
He was at a completely different Buc-ee's. So now he's going to be at 2 Buc-ee's in one day. So we went ahead and we drove the hour and a half to go meet him. It was a pleasant day here in Georgia. It was beautiful weather outside, and it was very nice to drive and to see him. And
now, and in addition to just being just pleasantly surprised by the wonderful opportunity to meet Father Tom and just hang out with a priest. I mean, that's always a very cool thing to be able to do.
At a Buc-ee's.
At a Buc-ee's.
He had a line of people waiting for confession.
Yeah, but everything about this date was just really great. We had heard so much about Buc-ee's, and then we got to see Father Tom. It was all combined into one, fun thing. But in terms of Buc-ee's, would you ever want to go back?
Well, if we're on a road trip,
yeah,
sure, yeah.
And because we had been warned by some people, oh man, if you're an introvert, you're going to hate this place. You're going to be overwhelmed, and it's just stuff everywhere, and you might not like it. And so I was a little afraid actually of you going into Buc-ee's, and I thought, oh, this could be really bad because my husband is an introvert and he doesn't like the noise and the busyness. But I guess it was fine. It was just fine. I don't know what the big deal was.
It's because it was a little bit more open. There was so much space. Now, there were a lot of people, but a few times, I just walked on the edges. I stayed away. I stayed away from people. It was possible.
Yes.
Tell you what. You know what I was most impressed about?
I think I know what you're going to say.
By Buc-ee's? The single most impressive thing, I have never seen a truck stop bathroom as clean as Buc-ee's was.
They should win an award for best gas station bathroom
on
experience.
a road trip. I will stop at a Buc-ee's every time because the bathroom was so clean.
It was amazing.
If I had a choice between that and the others that we typically now, let's see what they're like in 10 years. I'm sure at one point Love's truck stops were pristine clean, but not anymore.
Yeah. So it's so great to be able to meet Father Tom.
It was.
And it was awesome.
Say some prayers for him if you would. He's been a blessing to us, and we told him that. It's like the fact that things keep coming up for us to talk about are coming out of Liturgy of the Hours, and it's part of the program so often. And so he's just blessed us in many, many ways. So if you would say a prayer for Father Thomas, he's beginning his whole new journey, Midwest now. Back in the Midwest.
He's a Midwesterner now.
So that was pretty cool. I'm glad you remembered that. Otherwise, I would have kept talking and said goodbye and forgot to mention our visit with Father Tom last week. So thank you to all of you for hanging out with us. Again, make sure that you are subscribing to the video if you are watching it on YouTube. If you're listening to it, make sure you go and leave a kind review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to the show. And as always, we highly encourage you to go over and visit our website, rosaryarmy.com. If you are so inclined, make a donation at rosaryarmy.com/donate. While you're on the website, any place where you see that you could enter your name and email address, do that. And you will be sent out our inspirational emails, given updates on things going on with Rosary Army, and be on the wait list for our upcoming School of Mary. We're continuing to do great work on that. We look forward to giving you more updates on that. There's just nothing new yet to report this week, but stuff is still moving forward, and it's very, very exciting. And speaking of the Rosary, of course, pray your Rosary every single day. Make that be your habit. If you're not praying a Rosary every day, maybe this Lent is a great opportunity for you to make that be the thing that you are committing to do, of praying a daily Rosary to help build that habit so it becomes not something that you do just for Lent, but it becomes a habit that you carry on throughout your entire life. So pray your Rosary every day and
do whatever it takes to be holy.
Thanks for hanging out with us again. Subscribe to the video. Go watch it if you're listening, and go listen if you're watching. That could be our new sign-off.
Go listen if you're watching.
Yeah. Talk to you next week. Bye. God bless.
Bye.